So the way we like to explain it is that the flat is like your house, and then the floor is like the street, and the building is the whole neighborhood.
Welcome to Housing Hassles. We are a group of Centennial journalism students concerned about our housing futures. We are hoping to help students and young people feel less of a pit in their stomachs when looking for a place to live in the big city. In this three-part podcast, we will talk about housing and all things financial stress to help us figure out how our generation is supposed to live in Toronto. My name is Winter Duff, and I'll be your host for this week. And today we have Fiona Broughton, Project and Admin Coordinator of Toboggan Flats with us. Welcome, Fiona. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
What is Toboggan Flats?
So Toboggan Flats is a Canadian company who's looking to solve the problem of young people not having anywhere affordable to live downtown where they access their work and their school and all their social circles. And our way of doing that is by taking advantage of the huge office vacancy in our downtown cores right now and hoping to convert those empty office buildings into co-living, which is a way of more efficiently using the floor plate. And I'll explain a bit what co-living is. It's very popular in Europe and Asia, and it's sort of only now starting to come around to North America. But it's a private bedroom with shared facilities among a larger group of people than just a simple, three-bedroom that you might share with two roommates.
Why do you think it's so difficult for young people to find affordable housing?
That's a good question, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. For one, definitely in the last few years, the cost of living has just been increasing and increasing and increasing, and so that's an additional financial burden on students. And as a resident of Ontario, I know myself, the financial supports for students have been decreasing over that time as well. So there's a really very strong financial pressure on students where rent just becomes unaffordable and they're pushed further and further out of the city. And then they're burdened with long commutes as a cause of that. And in terms of the rental market, I know in Toronto, there's a big issue of, new buildings not actually being built for residents, but being built more for investors. So it's these micro condos and that kind of thing, and people buying them up and then renting them out. And there's really not a good stock of rental properties available for young people in downtown or even, definitely not in the suburbs, right? And so there's just not enough available catered to this demographic, right? We think about people being in student residences, and then we think about them buying their first homes. And we don't at all think about that period in the middle, which is often, living in a city for 1 to 2 years, trying to find a short-term rental when you're building your career or doing a master's degree or anything like that. So there just isn't enough catered to that period of life.
What kind of sacrifices should young people in big cities expect to make?
I think a lot of the time, the sacrifice is not living downtown, right? It's either living with your parents or it's living further out or living with other family members because downtown rentals are just so expensive that it really pushes people out. And even if you can find a downtown rental, the consolation you make then is just how expensive it is.
Why would anyone want to do co-living?
It's really popular, as I mentioned, in Europe and Asia, and it has been for quite a long time. So we've seen through that people really do enjoy it. And the benefits are, one of the benefits is the ability to have a shorter term stay. It's really difficult to find a short-term rental, say if you have a training course in a city for 3 to 6 months. It's difficult to find a rental like that. Oftentimes people are stuck in long-term Airbnbs or hotels or having to lock into a 1-year lease and figure out a sublet. So what co-living can do is have those shorter terms available. I believe the average stay in a co-living building in Europe is somewhere between 3 months and a year.
How does co-living work for people with accessibility needs?
That's a good question as well. So it really depends on the building. And I know we've been working with a building code consultant to figure out exactly, how we would make sure that there are enough rooms in the building that are accessible. So in an office building, there's already elevators, right? And so that's just a given because, again, an office building has to follow those accessibility criteria as well. And so what would be needed for an accessible unit is, of course, the elevators are there. and there's open pathways to get to any of the units. That, again, is also fire code for anybody with any type of ability. And then the unit itself would have to have, I forget the correct term, but it's the right sort of width to be able to maneuver in a wheelchair or with a walker or any other type of accessibility aid. And so it's definitely possible to make that happen in these units. We have quite a bit of flexibility in our floor plan. So it's definitely possible, and it's, as impossible as it would be in any other apartment, but you also have those common spaces in the building that people can access that allow you to have that social connection closer to your home, which I know is difficult for a lot of people with different accessibility needs. Sometimes they can't, access those other spaces that are given to people to connect. But if you have those closer to home in a space that's safe for you, that's also a benefit.
Okay. And with accessibility, is there a difference in pricing?
I believe there wouldn't be a difference in pricing, no. So we haven't fully, with every building that we're looking at, the pricing would be slightly different, right? Depending on the cost of the construction, the cost of the building. So we have pricing depending on the different types of units, which we've got 3 of. So we have the standard bedroom unit where you've got your own bedroom and it's in a share of 4 people, where there's a flat with a kitchenette and some common seating, and then bathrooms. And our ratio of bathrooms is 2 people to 1 bathroom. And then we have 2 other types of units. So we have the ensuite, which is a unit that has its own washroom in the bedroom and then is connected to a flat to share the kitchenette. And as well, there's a third, which is the studio unit. So that has a kitchenette and a bathroom in it. So it isn't part of a flat, but it does have access to all the floor and building level common areas. There wouldn't be an additional cost for an accessible unit, right? Because we assume that the accessible units would fit, in those types. I believe the number is around 15% of the units in a building have to be accessible with the, increased width and getting through, right? If you think about quite a small studio unit, it's a bit of a narrower corridor. So there would be some built with a wider corridor.
And what is your biggest concern when thinking about young people and affordable housing?
My biggest concern is just that we don't have it. And there isn't enough being done for young people in terms of affordable housing. Like a lot of programs that the government is running or that, like at different levels, federal, municipal, whatever, are focused on the affordability of buying housing, right? There's a lot of, even if you think about the emails you may get from your bank, start a first home saving account. And a lot of people our age are thinking, when am I ever going to buy a home? Right? So we don't have enough affordable options for that transitional period in life, sort of coming out of student housing where there are supports for them, and then, going into starting their career or going into postgraduate and that kind of thing. That is a huge gap that we aren't doing enough to support. So my biggest concern is that we aren't concerned enough about this demographic, and we really need to be.
Well, that's all my questions, but if you have anything you'd like to add, please feel free.
Here we go, a little self-promo. So what I'd like to add is I'd ask people to follow Toboggan Flats on social media. We've got Instagram, we've got LinkedIn, just to keep updated with what we're doing. We're always looking for more input from young people on what they need. And as we're exploring in different Canadian cities some options for different buildings that we could convert, we really want to make sure that we're connected to those communities and what they want, what they need in their housing. So I'd hope that people would follow along and be interested in what we're doing, because I think it's a really great model that needs to be brought to Canada, and I hope everyone would support it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for talking with us and taking the time out of your day to do so.
Thank you
We
very
really
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Join us next time, where we'll be breaking down budgeting for renting in Toronto. My name is Winter Duff, and this has been Housing Hassles. Make sure to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts for future episodes.